Welcome back to Henry Harrison's Entrepreneurs, Business, and Finance podcast featuring Orpical co-founder Edward DuCoin. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Henry Harrison podcast, Entrepreneurs, Business, and Finance. We are fortunate today to have Edward DuCoin on the show with us. And did I pronounce the name correctly?
You did?
I
Absolutely.
normally go over that ahead of time, but it's an unusual name, but I got it right, so I got lucky. Thanks for coming on. Hello, Edward.
Hello. Thank you, Henry. I appreciate it.
But I think in your case, what you're doing today is been built, and this is always the case to some extent, but all the things that you've done through your career and the challenges you've faced, the successes you've had, and just starting at a very young age in 1984, you started a company that grew to have 1,000 employees. I'm just looking at your LinkedIn, 20 million in revenue, and go public on NASDAQ. That's really something. And then you've been members of board of directors of a NASDAQ company. You've started multiple other companies. You've been associated with professors on boards of universities, including now a professor, adjunct professor, but still a
Adjunct,
professor.
yes.
Adjunct.
Means we work hard, but we don't get any of the benefits.
Okay. Montclair University. That's all neat stuff. And we were just talking before the call that you said you used to be the youngest guy in the room, and now you're not, nor am I. But that's all that experience that you've built upon and have to offer. And I've also heard you don't want to stop because you like what you're doing. It's not necessarily work, it's play and adding value and everything else on some of your other podcasts. Maybe in this case, let's just start when you were a kid. Did you think you'd be an entrepreneur?
I think there's a couple answers to that. I believe that the highest level of entrepreneur is almost inherent. I'm good at playing piano at 5 or 10 years old, or whatever it may be, or the people are natural born salespeople. And I've always had that instinct. Selling painted rocks as a kid, I couldn't figure out when my brother delivered, when we used to deliver newspapers and throw them up on the steps. I couldn't understand why he would only collect money once a week. So I'd follow him and collect money, and they'd give me a penny or a nickel, whatever. I actually started a legitimate company in 8th grade. It was called Audubon Ski Tours. And there was no money behind it, but I thought it was cool. I got to ski.
It's 12 o'clock.
There we go. Excuse me. I got to ski for free. And I think one of the key things is my mother and father worked very, very hard. And six kids. I was the youngest. We wanted for nothing, but we were at a best case middle class. I didn't realize it hit me out of the blue. I might have been in my 20s or even 30s. That wait a second, we used to have pancakes towards the end of the month. And I thought it was so cool having breakfast for dinner. And I realized as I got older, wait a second, I think we were having pancakes because my dad got paid on the first of the month. And that's the food we had in the house. So my parents had a goal to go on one cruise, which they did, thank God, before my mom passed away. They had a goal to rent, not buy, a motorhome and go across the country. And it wasn't necessarily about getting rich or getting the Ferrari, which I don't have, by the way. It was about, I think, two compounding things. One, having that sense of security, because I saw directly the pain of not having funds, saving for years and years to get new carpet in the home. But then I also had that inherent entrepreneurial spirit and, frankly, acumen and fortitude, which I think that's a very important thing. So that's how it came about.
Well, neat. And so the very first, well, that wasn't the first one because you started one when you were in 8th grade. But what about the Impact Telemarketing Compass International, the one that went public?
Yeah, there's an interesting backstory to that, but getting past that backstory, I'd like people to realize that it was a 16-year overnight success. And then the second thing about that is I remember distinctly at a Jersey diner meeting with our accountant. And when I say we, I started the company in 1984. My brother joined in 1986. He's 7 years older. To this day, like literally today is a Tuesday. To this day, my company is paid on a Tuesday. And sometimes they say, why the heck are you paid on a Tuesday? This dates back to 1985, 86, when My brother got paid on a Friday, and if we couldn't meet our whopping payroll of about $800, at least I knew he could cover it. And literally, that's why we're paid on Tuesdays. But several times, well, twice specifically, my brother and I were at a diner with our accountant, and my brother, or excuse me, the accountant said, "You guys don't realize that you're basically out of business, right? Like your cash flow, you're not going to meet payroll in 4 weeks." And it's like, "Oh yeah, well, we'll figure it out." And that mindset, I think, is truly entrepreneurial, make getting the commitment to make sure it happened. There's an awful lot of luck that comes in, but I do think you make your own luck. Meaning, I remember one time specifically, it was the end of the month, like, oh my God, how are we going to meet payroll? And out of the blue, a FedEx envelope shows up from a major client that said, we're trying to prepay some expenses to get them on this quarter. It's like, oh, my mom passed away when I was 23 in 1988, and my whole team knew that that was Angel Edna. That was her name. And Angel Edna would come through once or twice a year and save the day. So, but that's part of being an entrepreneur. People see Elon Musk today as a trillionaire, which is a whole other conversation. But as I understand it to be true, in the early days of SpaceX, he had a rocket, and if that rocket blew up, he was bankrupt. And that to me, that's badass because that's a real entrepreneur.
I read his biography. He had several other instances where he was a day away from bankruptcy. In one case, well, he continually put everything he had on the line. The first time was he was instrumental. I think he was the main programmer for Google Maps. He sold and made money, and then he turned and put all that money into his next venture, which ended up with a merger with Peter Thiel and PayPal. And then all the way up to Tesla, he had 40 million of his own personal funds, which a lot of people might think they wanted to hold on to because that's security. Well, Tesla was about to go under, and cash flow, he put all that into Tesla. And then
Yeah.
another time, someone had to come in and he had to bring in a partner because he was about to lose Tesla. So
Yeah, that's not being an entrepreneur. I'm not all that brilliant, and I certainly can't always joke around when it comes to home improvements that I hammer in a screw. I was like, I don't know what the difference is. But I did come up with one thing one time that I really, really like. It's that all warriors are soldiers, but not all soldiers are warriors. All entrepreneurs are business people, but not all business people are entrepreneurs. To be an entrepreneur, you need to be a warrior. And I've thought of that's cool. I really like it. Some people like it, some people may not. I like it because I think it truly defines the warrior attitude. You're charging up that hill. You're in front of your other soldiers. You're going into battle, taking the responsibility, making sure you win. It's kind of like beach the ship and burn the sails. We win or die. And that's what being an entrepreneur is about. I think thank God for business people. Thank God for the people that run good businesses that employ millions and millions of people. But to me, there's a difference between a business owner that has a great business and an entrepreneur that creates. And to create, you have to have commitment. Now, I want to actually clarify that. It was only about a week or two ago that it hit me when I was driving, because I think I probably talked to somebody about this in the car. And I was like, wait a second, that can be misconstrued that a warrior is not evil, but will do things at all costs, step on people, hurt people, not lie, but, and no, a warrior could be very kind. I think a warrior that sacrifices their own payroll for the good of their employees is awesome. I know people personally that would never do that. So to me, to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a warrior, but being a warrior is protecting in battle your troops. And in business, it's protecting your shareholders, your employees, your clients, and anybody else that is a stakeholder.
I got to do a little jump because you talked about how you're not handy. I'm also not handy, but you have this website, Addicts and More. That is you, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting story. We've been fortunate with my company that was started in 2012 called Orpical, and each letter stands for something like the O is optimistic and the L is loyalty. And we've had a lot of loyal clients. One client back almost from day one was in the home improvement space, specifically insulation and solar attic fans. And they were all over the country, but we realized they weren't in the greater Philadelphia, South Jersey area. And we were providing marketing for them. And we thought, well, wait a second, wouldn't it be a better idea to start own assumptions and plans so that we take on the risk, and then once it's proven, roll it out? Now, that was the philosophy and the foundation. It actually became a very valuable company. We turned it off because the other philosophy, and Bill Gates said this somewhere, and I'm going to paraphrase, but only with complete dedication and focus can you accomplish world-class things. And I felt like the company, and myself particularly, Orpical as an entity, was not getting the full attention that it needs to fully grow. So we ended up shutting that down, selling it, basically selling the inventory. And we still earn income from that, though. That website's still live because we get X number of leads per month, and then we offer those leads at a very, very attractive rate to some really good local contractors that count on us for that. So that's how that came about. It's crazy because people are like, well, wait a second, how's a marketing digital transformation agency that now does software development own an installation company? That makes no sense, but it did at the time.
Yeah, well, your website, for those that want to look you up, edwardducoin.net, we'll have it listed
The
on
main
the podcast.
website, yeah, the main website truly is Orpical, Orpical.com. That's the company website. My personal website, and then I have one for a book coming out. It definitely needs more attention, but again, with complete dedication and focus. So if I have to sacrifice a personal website for my company, I'll do it all. I have done it for years.
Sure, sure. Well, yeah, right. And I see also you've got Langus.ai. Is that tied
Yeah,
in?
Langus is really, Orbical started as a marketing agency, and then we turned into a digital transformation agency just because not only was it the new name, but it really represented who we were. We still definitely do that, but it's just the growth of a company. I consider Orbical a 12-year-old startup because we've reinvented ourselves several times. Today, we're an operational consulting firm focused on software development using AI, but not strictly reliant upon AI, and we affect the profitability of our clients. Now, that sounds all fine and good, but the next level of that is an intellectual venture capital firm. So if a client, we may take 30%, 50%, 20%, whatever makes sense in either equity, and we love to work with venture-backed startups, or in equity in a company that has an exit opportunity, or a funding mechanism where there's opportunity to expand the technology. So another cool thing we do is with an organization that they really probably can't afford the technology, but if we build it, they know that if they need it, their peers either within, say, a distribution network or in their industry could use it. So it's like, okay, well, wait a second. Why don't we build it for you? We're going to build it for like our cost, maybe a little bit more. Now, you're going to pay for that, but you're going to save a ton of money and have great software if that's what we're building. But then we as a team will create a joint venture to go market that. Someday Orbital will go away. A meteor could hit us and we'll probably not be a company anymore. Hopefully it won't be from a negative exit, but here's the thing. The original mindset was always the exit had to be Orbital to sell the company. Now the exit is going to be multiple exits, whether it be a separate joint venture, whether it be a separate LLC. So Langus is really our first major one that is backed by other investors. So Langus is the word signal spelled backwards, and we developed a patent pending algorithm called the connection compatibility algorithm. And without getting into great detail, it affects the ability for two people or two companies or a company and individuals to connect for a defined reason that makes sense for them. And then the key part about this, because there's a lot of software out there that does it, Our software is unique enough that it can be patent pending, but the secret sauce is working within the law of reciprocity. So when you connect these two people, it can't be me selling you. It has to be how the relationship benefits both. And then the constant learning of the algorithm so that every time we meet with you, because we've learned more about you, our ability to make those connections gets even better. So that's an example of a client came to us, we came up with an idea, and now it's a joint venture.
Wow, cool. And you're planning on doing more of those. And those are win-wins because the client that comes to you saves capital, which they may not have. They get your attention, not, well, longer term attention because you're invested alongside them. You said you have long-term clients that ever since the beginning. So I'm sure you're very invested in them as well, just not literally with equity. But it's a different type of relationship, perhaps, with you're going into their board meetings and you're talking to their officers about decisions and
Or
I'm
even have
I'm,
a
I'm
seat on the board. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So it is kind of a hybrid venture capital. Venture capital provides a great service. It's not always well loved by some of the entrepreneurs. So this seems like a nice, you must be well loved, that group. Sometimes they're pretty demanding on the numbers and then they do have to lay people off and hard decisions and meet the numbers and
I think there's two levels to that. The purpose of a company is to attract and retain customers. Money is simply the result. But then, and there's a whole other thing I teach my students about. So if you have no customers, you have no purpose in business. And that has nothing to do with actual customers paying. It means internal operations. You need to count on each other. But the secondary, once you hit that base level, the secondary is to maximize shareholder value. So if you treat your people well, respect them, like them, trust them, train them, give them the opportunity to grow, you should do pretty well. However, you want to work with the best of the best, and laying somebody off is part of all business. It's not a bad thing because I've been at this for over 30, well, that's scary. I've been at this 40 years. Unfortunately, I've had the distinct unpleasure, bad pleasure, no pleasure, whatever the wording is, of having to fire people. But I don't really have a problem with it, honestly, because 99 times out of 100, I gave every chance and opportunity. And then what I think about is not necessarily the person's being let go, even though that drains on me more than most people would realize. But I think about the people that are staying. My purpose is to attract and retain customers, provide the greatest value. Money is simply the result that will enable us to grow, to also maximize shareholder value.
what you hope, at least what I hope, and I think you probably do too, is it's not the right seat for them. They need to go to find
Oh,
the
for
right
sure.
place
Oh,
for them. And if everything didn't work, then many times they're like later you'll hear people talking about, well, that was the best thing that ever happened to me because I realized this, I realized that, I found my spot where I really needed to be for me and my family.
you're
Um,
absolutely right. I've heard that dozens and dozens and dozens of times. And it's Jim Collins, good to great. Get the right people on the bus and then get them in the right seat. And these are not bad people in any way, shape, or form. It's just not the right way. But back to the venture capital, the one concern that I have with some firms, man, you get these 28-year-old MBAs that never met a payroll in your life, and then they're picking apart your company. It's like, dude, what I do on a weekly basis, you would be huddled in a corner crying. You got to meet an $82,000 payroll and you got $48,000 in the bank and you got to solve that problem in 2 business days. That's the entrepreneur that I want to work with. I'm sure most MBA students in their 20s are awesome, awesome people, but they're not entrepreneurs. And if
yeah.
anybody in that mindset, or not mindset, if it was like, well, I'm a 28-year-old MBA, screw you, Ed. Well, they probably should say screw me because I'm making a broad assumption. But I've experienced it over and over and over again. It's like, dude, what you're saying from a P&L perspective or an EBITDA. But let me tell you, I got happy clients. I'm meeting my payroll, and I'm going to be here long after you. So
Do you still work with, you worked with one brother? I think you said you had five brothers, or there are six of
No, no,
you?
no. I'm youngest of six. So I got five siblings. No, my brother and I, we took the company public. I was way too young. The problem is that the year 2000 was so weird because people were getting millions of dollars for a business plan. Literally, they would just hand a document,
I
and
remember. Yeah.
these VC firms were handing them money. Then in later months and a year later, everything crashed. But I kind of believe my own publicity. It's like Entrepreneur of the Year and Philadelphia Business Journal Hall of Fame and all that other stuff. But I'll tell you though, I still am proud when I had a company back then, and what little, whatever wealth I had at that time, I invested in the company because it was like, if a VC, if I want a VC to invest in my company, then I should invest in my company. And then when that company started to really hit the fan, I should have bankrupted the company, but uh, stubborn is a great thing when it works and an expensive thing when it doesn't.
Well, that's part of the thing is that they say people learn more from their failures sometimes than their
Ow.
successes. So
Ow.
when you're teaching your students, are you actually grading papers? You have
Oh,
an
yeah.
assistant that does that for you, or you're grading papers?
No, but and it's crazy. And people think that this is insane when they talked about friends or other colleagues about it. Is I ask my students what their grade should be. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Most of the students, if I think, oh yeah, they deserve an A, they'll say they deserve a B. Now, I'm not going to give an A student a B necessarily, but people are always more conservative. And I don't just ask them their grade, like why? What did they learn? How did they participate? How would they rate themselves? If you were me and you were your own professor, how would you rate yourself? So yes, we have projects, but I don't use a textbook. And this is maybe embarrassing to say, and I hope the dean doesn't hear this. Some days I walk into class, what do you guys want to talk about today?
Yeah, you got so
And
much on the tip of your tongue, I'm sure that you can steer it wherever the direction the interest is in the class and the pressing issues that they're facing. We actually had something like that. I went part-time at night. I got my MBA at SMU because I was here in Dallas, and we had something similar where we did group projects. There was a lot of group projects, and then if you had six people, everybody would grade. I've forgotten how it worked, but basically everybody graded everybody, and that's what you ended up with.
yeah.
Was a lot of accountability to have your teammates, fellow teammates. Are you still close with your siblings? Are they around,
Oh my gosh.
alive?
We're best of friends. They are older. Again, my mom passed away when I was young, so my sisters, they never stepped in as mom, but we're all very close, absolutely. You can see, look, which way I gotta go. You see Howdy
Well,
behind
I
me.
saw some pictures
We
that,
we
yeah.
do yeah, we do a lot of work in Dallas. I love Texas. And yeah, somebody gave that to me from a meeting. So
What is you just kind of told one story, maybe that's enough, but the to give it maybe a story of what actually your business right now is doing. I want to make sure I pronounce it right, but
it's
the
not Oracle.
Orpical,
Yeah, a lot of
Orpical,
people think
yeah,
I co-founded Oracle, and I was like, if I
yeah.
do, I wouldn't be flying coach if I.
Yeah. Or Orpical, like a client today, who would you want to come to you? Who would you approach and what would you do for them? Maybe you
Most,
do lots of different things depending on the client, but I know
yeah,
it's a form of management consulting because you have a background in that, I guess, but more than that.
well, there's three answers. Number one, we've never advertised. 100% of our business from day one has come from referrals or word of mouth. So it's not like we have to advertise for something. Number two, part of what I teach in marketing and even bring to our own clients is the more you narrow your market, the wider your market becomes. So, like with your listeners, if I said, well, think of an animal, I don't know what that means, but think of a pink elephant with purple polka dots. They can instantly do that. So the best marketing narrows into a particular audience, speaks their language, understands the industry, and tailors specific solutions for them. So you can have the same product, like a piece of software, that you would market differently for lawyers than you would for accountants, than you would for insurance companies. The problem with our company was always is we didn't do that because everything we did was so customized. So and again, because it's referrals, and when an employee or an executive of a client company, and we've been at this for so long, this has happened maybe a dozen times, if not more, They leave company A to go to company B. Well, they bring us to company B. And as long as we're not competing, as long as we're not giving away trade secrets, that's a great way to grow. However, so to answer your question though directly, it's a company that wants to automate a process using software. Now, the question is, how did a marketing agency get into software development? I'm proud to say we got into that because our marketing clients would come to us and say, we're really getting screwed over. I cannot tell you how many times, even as recent as last week. It's like, we hired the software development company. It's over budget. It's 90 days late, blah, 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 blah. But before they said, we wish you guys would do software development. And I was like, okay, figure it out. Okay. I'm blessed to have a partner that is just insanely intelligent. And honestly, he went from knowing very, very little, I want to say nothing, but very little back in 2015, 16, as I would put him up against any programmer on the planet today, especially with the advent of AI. Now, not advent, with the expansion of AI. With the expansion of AI, what I'm very excited about with our company is our ability to now productize services and do what I always wanted to do, is take them to a specific market for a specific reason. The best example right now is Langus. We developed Langus. Called the connection compatibility algorithm. It works with chambers of commerce, bringing a solution to members so the members can better connect, adding value to the chamber. We're doing that with alumni groups, trade groups, chambers of commerce. But the beautiful thing behind that is once we're in that organization, then the enterprise level clients say, hey, can you do that for us? And that's pretty cool.
I probably misstated it, although I think you must do some of it, but management consulting would not be the best way to.
No, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. Matter of fact,
Okay.
one of the least creative people on the planet, my bookkeeper accountant said to me one day, and I'll never forget this, you guys just don't realize you're a business consulting firm disguised as a marketing
That's what
agency.
it sounded like to me. Yeah. Yeah.
You're right.
Okay. Well, one thing, you've got the picture on your wall behind you, and it's something that seems pretty cool to me. I liked F1 with Brad Pitt, racing movies. So you've been racing cars yourself for years with teams, and you had a business. Not sure if you're still involved with that, but with promotions related to business. Talk a little bit about that because that's pretty cool. Not everybody goes out and races cars, or
Yeah,
I
I've
hope
always,
so.
as
They
a
do it
kid,
on a track.
yeah, even as a kid, bumper cars. I remember being down the Jersey Shore in bumper cars, and all I wanted to do was go around the circle, and I get pissed off if people hit me. And then you go in the go-karts when you're 10, 11, 12 years old. But I really was not involved in racing till I think I was about 30 years old, something like that. And I went to the Dover NASCAR race, and they're doing this parade lap. They're going slow as they're warming up the tires and singing the national anthem, and the fighter jets fly over. And on the back straight, I said to my buddy Pat, I'm going to do this someday. I'm going to do this. I'm going to race. In fact, I think I want to professionally race. And I did have money at the time, so that was a barrier that me helped. And the guys behind me said, "You're too old. You'll never race." And my buddy said, "Oh my God, you don't know who you just said that to." So a few weeks later, I was enrolled in Buck Baker Racing School, 5 day, 10 sessions, morning and afternoon. The morning of Tuesday morning, Buck Baker himself came to me and said, "Son, if you go home now, we will refund your money because you're either going to kill yourself or kill somebody else." So that was fun. But the thing is, the school was just not appropriate for a beginner, and I wasn't really aware of that. It wasn't positioned properly, so I went to the proper school. 2 years later, raced in my first professional race. I came in 14th. People in NASCAR who know that there's typically 38, used to be more cars in a race, would be like, 14th, that's awesome. Nobody asked the question, how many cars were in it? It was 15, and somebody blew their engine. But I legitimately earned money in winning in prize money. I lost money in investing in it. And then just had it. I met some people and I became president of Bang Racing, and we brought Toyota into NASCAR. That's a dramatic story about the fall of that organization. And again, that's where I'm too entrepreneurial. They show up with thousands and thousands of dollars of sheet metal we need to build our car, and nobody's in the shop. And it's like, well, I guess I got to write the check. Unfortunately, that check never got reimbursed, but then I started my own little tiny micro team, but we did race some big tracks. I've gotten out of it because it's very expensive and the industry is very cutthroat. I was involved in politics before where you went into DC, you didn't talk business at lunch or certainly not happy hour. And I think NASCAR is actually worse when it comes to sponsorships or poaching drivers and things like that. So it's something I did. I would enjoy doing it again at my age. It's something I did and I loved it.
What kind of car did you race?
Stock car. Yeah. The reason why I was able to be competitive at my age is because most of the stock car racers were brought up racing short track. I went to a road racing school, which is very different. So we turned left and right. And so that's all I ever knew. So I did okay. Never, but that wasn't the point. The point was being on the track. When I was in my first race and I came in 14th, when I got out of my car, I felt like I won the Daytona 500. It was fun.
Yeah, yeah, I could see. Very exciting. So what's the future plan for the foreseeable future for your life's journey? Don't see you slowing down. Don't see you want to.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to. Oh my God, the thought of getting up in the morning and going to a cubicle. I enjoy what I do. I love the people I work with. I love doing great work. That's the thing. If you're not doing great work, then it's not good. I have a book coming out that I'm very excited about. If you would have said to me in 2019, 2020 that the book wouldn't be out in 2026, I would have said, okay, well, that means something tragically happened to me. But the story, two factors. The story needed to live in my head more. I needed to grow Orpical to the point where, like last 2 years in a row, we were rated as one of the fastest growing companies in Philadelphia. So I needed to prove that entrepreneurial performance. And then I will share with you because it's such a research-based book that AI has helped me because I have like 35,000 files or documents, part of that journey and that story. And so I'd sit down to write and I'd spend 2 hours trying to find one thing. So AI has absolutely helped me make sure the story is accurate. Now, it's called indicted loyalty, convicted logic because I was indicted for being loyal to shareholders and there was a conviction that was completely illogical. Bottom line, I had a CPA that I hired with good integrity. I had one CPA that's a bookkeeper, glorified bookkeeper, worked with Jackson Hewitt. Now, I'm not putting down Jackson Hewitt, but it wasn't like it was a big five accounting firm that said I was due a $20,000 refund. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm not even a bookkeeper or accountant. But I tell you, I don't do a $20,000 refund. And I've got shareholders and I don't have any problems. Boy, did I get the problems. I then hired a second accountant who, for whatever reason, and I'm not going to say anything disparaging, there's both assumptions and absolute facts, hijacked my books, started an audit behind my back. It took me 8 months to find Jeff Josephson, probably one man that changed my life. Who would think that a IRS auditor would be a positive thing? But he had the books because the CPA had power of attorney. I had a gift from God, I guess a gift from Angel Edna, like I was telling you about earlier, Sandra Riker, who was a bookkeeper. I said, look, I can't pay you. I don't know you. You don't know me. And she still works with me today. We did the books and determined that, yeah, I owed taxes. I owed 26,000. However, the part I'm missing when I first met with Jeff Josephson, I walked into his office and I saw all these boxes. I call them banker boxes with all these files that had my name all over them. And I'm like, well, that doesn't look good. So I gave him my nice little story that I gave you saying, okay, here, I thought I owed 20 grand. I was told I was going to get a 20 grand refund. I have shareholders and we're raising venture capital and stuff's hitting the fan with the whole financial crisis. I don't want to have any problems. I said, I know I probably owe money. Can we just, what do we need to do to get this resolved? And I'm happy it was this number because had he said 40,000, 60,000, not that I could write the check, but at least it would be okay, whatever. I owed $692,000. That's what the IRS wanted from me. And over about a 12-month period with great work from great people who basically donated their time, and Jeff Josephson, who was very fair, it was determined that I owed, like I said, less than $30,000. But it ripped my company and my life apart of the ramifications of that took a decade to correct. I went from being, frankly, very well known and respected entrepreneur in the general Philadelphia market, being in Success Magazine, all those other things, to where I was literally unemployable. And so one of my, like you said earlier, people learn more from their mistakes. You started this interview out talking about the fact that I took a company from my bedroom to being publicly traded. And I started it with $102. My parents had no money. Literally, still have the receipt on my wall, $102 for a certificate of trade name. That pales in comparison to what I accomplished from the day Jeff Josephson said I owed almost $700,000 in taxes to Orpical being rated 2 years in a row as one of the fastest growing companies. Because like I said, like people are like, well, why didn't you just go get a job? It's like, I was unemployable. So Orbital got started because there was no other opportunity. It was beach the ship, burn the sails, fight or die, because there was no other alternative. So that's the basis of the book. And the book's going to be kind of healthy. It's right now, it's written. I got to go through again, definitely one more rewrite, and then get it to an editor. But it'll be, I think right now it's about 130,000 words. So it's a nice chunk. It's a nice book. So
Yeah.
that's the big thing. Grow Orbical, continue to have fun, get my book out there, and there you go.
What a great positive note, and the whole conversation has been positive, but what a great note to finish on. And
That goes back to you're either an entrepreneur or you're not. Yeah, anybody can start a business, and I think that's wonderful. But creating something completely that's in your mind and getting somebody to pay for it and then thanking you for providing that product or service and then replicating that and making a unique product better and better and better, that's the entrepreneur. And as I share with you, thank God for the pizza shop owners, because we'd never get pizza. And the tens of millions of great business owners out there. But I definitely believe there's a distinction between an entrepreneur and a business owner. And if everybody was entrepreneurs versus business owners, 85% of the businesses wouldn't fail in the first 3 years, because you would never allow that to happen.
oh, don't forget the Philly cheesesteak. All the Europeans for the World Cup, they were all talking about the Philly cheesesteak and how they
I'll
ate
tell
them all.
you.
They're running out of Philly cheesesteaks in Philly.
Well, they ran out of beer in Boston, which is crazy too. So,
Hey, really great to visit, and we'll talk. We'll be in touch.
yeah, and I appreciate your time. I really do. I know you can select. I'm sure you have many people wanting to be on this show, and the fact that you selected me is a real honor. I do appreciate that.
Same here. Back at you. All righty.
Thanks for tuning in. Remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another episode. You can also search Henry Harrison Podcast on your favorite podcast platforms.